And we are the Non-Prophets. I'm Denis Loubet, last of his name, Prince of Artisan, Master of Pixels, along with Kevin Stein, Lord of Knives, Destroyer of Dogma, Hand of the King, and Jamie Boone, Potentate of Verbosity, Champion of the Paddle, Knight of the Order of the Lift. We're coming to you live from the Free Thought Library in Austin, Texas on the 17th of April, 2019. This show is sponsored by the Lords of the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization for the promotion of positive atheism and the separation of church and state. If you want to learn more about the LOTACA, you can call their voicemail at 512-220-6561 or visit their website at www.atheist-community.org. The Non-Prophets broadcasts live every first and third Wednesday of each month from 7:30 to 9 Central Time. You can join the Non-Prophets Council Chamber by following the directions at www.nonprofitsradio.com. So sit back, grab a dragon, and enjoy the show.
So, Dennis, are you a fan of Game of Thrones, perchance?
What? What's that?
What is this game of which you speak?
Yes, it's the one where you win or you die.
That's right.
Damn, every week you hit me with a surprise. That's fantastic every time. Yeah.
This one, half hour before the show started, I was sitting there going, okay, that's how I do it.
Listen, what you produce is magic. Never reveal your secrets.
Don't show behind the curtain.
Don't show behind the curtains. Yeah. It takes, never show how the sausage is made.
Except
People just
I'm
want
a
to eat it.
miracle worker.
I get to know each one of your new fandoms every single time we do a new show.
There we go.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Well said from the Master of Knives, I believe it was.
Yes.
Anybody knows me, yeah.
What was it? You said the what of verbosity?
The potentate of verbosity. I had to come up with a long word.
I feel like that was apt.
That's good.
So what have you been up to in the last couple of weeks, Dennis?
Oh, gosh. Well, I actually managed to hang out with some Game of Thrones actors.
Really?
Yes. At Dragon's Lair here in Austin. They had several of the actors. There was like Arya's Swordmaster.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
And
I loved him. He was great.
One of the White Walkers, the king of...
Oh,
one of those. There was also Rhaegar Targaryen, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was Ferenzi.
Huh?
Ferenzi was the dancing master.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's Serial Pharrell
water,
as well.
Yeah, water dancing. Yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. And I got a picture taken and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Always good to get your picture made. Do we have those? You got a picture. Do we have those? Or are we moving on without them? I don't know.
It's kind of weird.
I have not heard the voice of my lords in the control room.
It was like in a room off the main
so I've been in
Dragon's Lair.
Okay, so it was like a secret room.
It was off the room, and
it was guarded by gold cloaks.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't think I usually have anything to say to famous people.
Yeah,
but it's like they're there. They're hawking their name. They're hawking their signatures and stuff. And so I go, okay, well, I can get a picture taken and shell out for that, and that helps them.
Yeah.
And
no picture.
And
but pictures available online where you can discuss things with us at the ACA Productions Facebook group.
Right, but the thing that kind of bugs me about that is that they're a captive audience, and they have to be nice to their fans, and that puts them at a real disadvantage. They can't tell me to bugger off if I start talking too much.
Well, I mean, how long will it be before the famous and talented Denis Loubet has fans that he has to...
I'll be in the same boat.
Yes, precisely the same boat. And if people want to find your stuff, they can go to...
www.denisloubet.com.
Yes, of course.
And that's my website.
Yeah, which has a very strong... It's not quite on the lower third yet, but yeah.
Yeah.
Which, is protected against being overloaded on, traffic or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, this is veering most verbose. But Kevin, how have you been?
I've been doing pretty well.
Anything new?
Nothing too exciting to talk about.
Yeah.
At least
All right.
on my end, but yeah.
I-
I'm happy to be here. I've been really looking forward to today.
Yeah, you've been killing it in the prep for this show. I also don't
yeah.
have any significant changes or things that have happened to me in the last 2 weeks, other than that the American Atheist National Convention is coming up. So donating to the ACA would be super helpful because we had a last-minute unexpected tech expense. And in terms of that, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't shill for the organization. Have a volunteer job for and am on 2 shows for. You can support it by going to patreon.com/TheNonProphets. But with that, yeah, I think we're...
Cool.
Yeah, I wanted to actually make an announcement or two. We're going to be doing a little bit of reformatting, trying to streamline the show a little bit, and actually have, proper segments.
That's right. Rules and regulations.
Yeah, it's not going to be just quite as freeform as it has been, so that we can ensure that you get, the shit and the question.
The stuff you came for.
The stuff that you guys have been bugging us about in the live chat and in, our emails. So
We listen when you send us email.
And
really
we
do.
actually have quite a few emails to get
Yes.
to. Jamie, do you want to take the first one?
I do, and thank you for sending them, and send more. Our goal is to have too many emails to read and find some way of reading them anyway. That's not, whatever. Bring it. We can read all your emails. We can read them twice. What you got? In any case, the first email that I wanted to discuss is from Chuck. And it's about, here, I'll read it. Christians can never know whether lying is good or bad. Sure, God says it's bad, but if lying were actually good, then God would still say it's bad. Since God always does what's good, if lying were good, then God would be doing good by lying to us about it, and would still say it was wrong. Lying can be shown to cause problems, but that would be using secular means to show that it's bad, making God's opinion unnecessary. And this is signed Chuck in Arizona.
Well, thank you, Chuck. That's a little convoluted, but I gotta say the first thing that comes to mind for me was the Euthyphro
dilemma.
dilemma.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess, Jamie, you probably know better than me.
Yeah,
Can you
so
kind of surmise the Euthyphro dilemma for us?
I can. I think, there's a printed out definition here, but
that's
in short,
talking about the sausage being made.
I know everything off the top of my head. Well, okay, so here's the thing, upside down. So the Euthyphro dilemma is effectively, from whence comes the good? Is something good because God says it is good?
Right.
Or does God say something is good because it is? So either God's opinion, viewpoint is the source that creates the quality of an action being good, charity, right? Either God makes charity good, or charity is good and God is just a messenger.
He reports
it. So either he's a reporter or a creator. And if he, with his opinion, creates what is good, then what is good is entirely arbitrary, and God could say, or if God had said that murder was good, murder would be good. Or God reports whatever is good, in which case, let's go to the source. We don't need a reporter.
You therefore don't need God if you can determine what is good without God.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically.
More or less, yeah.
That, or it's what is good is following orders unquestioningly, which we had to sort of famous trials in Nuremberg about.
Yeah. It seems that they often confuse obedience with morality, so it's like, it's weird.
Yeah, and I've heard Matt talk about the Euthyphro dilemma before. It originally was referencing piety.
Oh, yes.
And it later kind of was augmented by theists or monotheists, more specifically, to be about morality.
Yeah.
So.
I think it was used as an example to describe a problem with the monotheist position. But
Okay,
that's
yeah.
what
I got it.
that's what you meant. Yeah, but
That is
yeah.
what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, but I've decided to be the. I've forgotten your word, the potentate of verbosity.
The potentate
So
of
I've
verbosity.
Stated it more verbosely. This
Good job.
Yeah, this email actually reminds me a little bit of the puzzle where it's like there's two doors and two guards in front of them, and one always lies and one always tells the
Oh,
truth.
right.
From Labyrinth.
Yeah, from
Yeah.
Labyrinth. Yeah. But yeah. So good email.
Yes,
thank you, Chuck, from Arizona.
Thank you, Chuck.
interesting.
That one was from
Wow, what?
last month, I think.
It's
it
like
kinda
you
slipped
get a
under the
little
radar.
bit into his description, and it's like, wow, I can't follow the intricacies of what he said. Is it because there's like too many negatives, or
I think that just the
positives,
wording
or
is a
what in
little
there?
bit.
I think it's the repeated use of the same word.
Okay.
The
So
wording is just a little.
here,
was like,
either
whoa.
lying is immoral. Is the correct thing to do or the incorrect thing to do? If God communicates that spreading deceit, or rather, if spreading deceit is good, then God would deceive us about honesty and telling the truth.
Okay.
Which is precisely what he would
Right.
do if honesty and telling the truth were actually good. So the fact that Christians report that being honest and spreading the truth is good doesn't actually tell us whether that is the case. In the event that a God
Excellent.
existed, which is also not demonstrated.
Good.
Yeah.
That's clear. That's good. All right.
Again,
Potentate of verbosity!
Exactly.
again,
For the
thank
win.
Thank you, Chuck. That was a good email.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Chuck in Arizona.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to actually go ahead and take the next one,
All right.
which is, here we go. This is from Kitty. Hello, nonprofits. My dad, who is a young earth creationist, was reading a creationist magazine on our bus ride home, and I happened to peek over his shoulder. I noticed an advertisement for something called Genesis Academy. After digging, I came across a website, Genesis Academy Net, blah, blah, blah. I thought you guys might get a giggle at the ridiculousness of this website. Indeed, we did, or at least I did.
Oh, yeah?
Its background, anyways, I'm going to skim. Anyways, I'm loving this show, although the Internet Apologists section seems to be less Internet apologists and more articles of religious folk doing and saying wacky stuff, which is a bit disappointing. Again,
All right.
we're back to our, reformatting of the show. We're going to take care of that. Don't worry, Katie.
Thank you for your commentary.
Still
Yes.
enjoying the show and the new hosts. You folks are doing great work. Kind regards, Kitty.
All right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, let us know when we stray.
Yeah, I checked out that site, and it was pretty bad. There was a, I'm going to be kind and call it an article. It was called,
boy.
Conspiracy of Reason.
Ooh.
Why should it be so? And it basically amounted to, it was a semantic bullshit argument that the word proof is only useful in a mathematical context and not in a scientific.
Sure.
That's accurate. Science doesn't prove things. It
Okay.
shows them to be true or likely true.
Right.
Yes.
But if mathematics is a science, then mathematics does involve proofs.
Well-
So proofs can.
Well, when
I think that-
we demand proof for one of their claims, they're saying unless we are demanding mathematical proof, it is what we are asking for is useless.
Oh my God! If I was taking this clip, I'm behind a computer editing this. I just splice in the clip of Tracy Harris saying, "What I want is a reasonable demonstration of a justification for your claim," and then I would be done.
Yeah, and colloquially,
right.
we would kind of call
say
that proof.
Proof.
Yeah.
We're sorry for trying to use words you understand.
Yeah, and I'm sorry you have to be so disingenuous
Yeah.
to try and get some kind of, real point across. Or they can pretend to try and get a point across.
Yeah.
Rather.
There really is an obsession with what the specific word is and what the definition of it is.
hate
yeah.
disingenuous
That crap.
semantic argument. It is just a means to derail the conversation and
Well,
send
you have a
it
different word
off
for
into
everything.
a fucking ditch.
Well, I think there's an honest misunderstanding of it, which is just that that's the only thing that they're trained to do is, look, here is this set of sentences with paragraphs. Study exactly what the words mean and look at no outside sources. And so when you send them a new text, they go, but the definition of the... And it's like they're handed a text. Wow, someone is insulted by that. And, sorry that you feel insulted, but it's accurate. They're handed a text that said, find the definition of these words to make it true. And then you give them a text and they go, I need to find the definition of these words to make it false. And they do their best.
Right.
And it gets kind of tiresome.
It was, thank you, Kitty. That was a very interesting and very entertaining little trip through that website.
Yes.
Okay. I guess we're going to move on from there.
Where do we go?
Dennis, do you have the next email?
I do.
All right.
I do. And this
yeah.
is from Richard. So, you asked for emails in the last episode, so here's a little bit more about calendars. I trained as an astronomer. Not an astrologer, an astronomer.
The one that counts.
Yes. Where using a linear index of time is required for some measurements. Counting by years is not quite linear, affected by leap years having 366 days. So the convention used is Julian dates. And he gives a URL for that. And yes, that is a reference to Julius Caesar and a change of calendar in ancient Roman times, still influencing astronomy almost 2,000 years later.
Oh, fancy.
Cool, eh?
Exclamation point.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is cool.
Yeah.
Wait, so who is that from again?
Richard.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Much appreciated.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's amazing how
Yeah.
It harkens back to, why are wagon ruts a certain distance apart and stuff like that. And it goes back and back and back in history.
There was that History Channel program that was like, I forget what it was called, but it was like following the route of things. So it was basically the width of Roman roads influenced our mission to the moon. Because it was the width of their road affected the width of wagons, affected the width of train tracks, even in the United States.
Right.
And that's how they transported all of the pieces, and that's how they designed the pieces. And so
I did not see that show. That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
shit that landed on the moon got influenced by a person who broke a republic in half.
Huh.
I mean,
That's cool.
not to put a somber note on that, but happened
whatever.
before I was alive. I don't care.
It shows you how strong the concept of backward compatibility is.
Really, though. Yeah, it's sort of like all the shit that got built on Flash that's now...
Oh, God, yes.
Entirely unrelated. But in terms of emailing in about calendars, everyone should be encouraged to do this, particularly when it's extra interesting.
Yeah.
I forget which calendar was in use before the Julian calendar.
The Gregorian calendar.
Was it? I thought the Gregorian
do not
calendar
know.
came after the Julian calendar.
It's just fun to say Gregorian.
It is fun to say Gregorian, even particularly when it's a Gregorian chant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gregorian.
Yes. Thank you, Richard.
All right.
Cool.
Jamie, I think you've got the
I
next
do.
one.
So I have an email from Adrian, who is writing from France, by the way. Bonjour.
Neat.
My condolences.
Yes.
Land of crepes and burritos. Hey, all right.
It just happened.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were just saying, "Oh, I'm sorry you live in France," as opposed to the Notre Dame, which is truly a tragedy that I wasn't thinking of when I was defending the honor.
You thought I was being a snarky asshole.
I mean, I operate under that assumption about everyone, and I'm disappointed far too often. But Adrian writes, "Hi all, you were very critical about Catholic priests that don't leave the clergy following the revelation that the church is a criminal organization. You blamed them more than parishioners, but I have to disagree with you on that one.
Okay.
For parishioners, the consequences of not attending or not tithing are very low. Maybe some bad reputation in the community, nothing that can't be handled, especially when there are other communities available.
Excellent point.
Priests, on the other hand, that's a whole different issue. Their choice may be to follow their conscience or being durably employed, durably unemployed, and homeless.
Yeah.
So there's a reference to interviews with the Clergy Project, which is an interesting point of reference that I encourage everyone to look into. That's the Clergy Project. It's clergy that don't believe but are stuck in their job because they have no other skills.
Yeah.
And so he continues, so on the contrary, it's perfectly unsurprising that not many priests have opted for unemployment and homelessness, even if the actions of the church are unconscionable for them. But maybe if they get a chance to do some training or an actual job, maybe this could change. Although obviously it would take a while and would probably go unnoticed, as if would be spread over time, depending on how long it takes for each of them to get trained long after the scandals. So what I will say to that is the very least they could do would be leak documents related to this problem.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've had a little while to think about this, so I should have said
whistleblowers.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it was
Unfortunately,
it was me. I'm the one who initially brought that up. So I understand where you're coming from, and to an extent, I do agree. And we actually, episode before last, I was kind of poking fun at priests not having any real skill sets to offer the job market. So I was not unaware of that as well. I do think that they are more to blame and they have more on their shoulders because they are a part of the organization than the parishioners. So yes, they have more to lose, but they also shoulder more responsibility. So
another good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can say whistleblowing from our safe seats here, but
Well, yeah.
whistleblowing
It is difficult, yeah.
is, though it should be applauded, it is almost universally reviled, and so
Yeah.
unfortunately,
So from when it occurs, right? Like
Yeah.
I'll champion whistle actually always, but yeah, usually you whistleblow from a position of vulnerability.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
very true.
But,
So, I mean, I don't know if I personally am going to say, you know what, never mind. They don't they shouldn't be held responsible more than the parishioners. I still think that they should, and
Yeah.
I still think that they should make the moral decision to step back. But I get it, if you've been in a career and you don't really have any skill sets for decades and decades,
Right.
you're in your 40s or 50s or older,
Yeah.
that's got to be terrifying.
Yeah, there's only one thing you do well. And
Yeah.
it's,
I mean,
I can
it's,
sympathize with that.
yeah, it's kind of like, well, I guess it's, the analogy falls apart very quickly, but it's the German baker in the 1940s. It's sort of like, you should speak out, but you're not sure how much your speaking out will do, and it will mean, the end of your ability to operate profitably. Although no one is threatening priests with jail for coming forward with useful information.
True, and
The analogy breaks down almost immediately. But
yeah, I think it was more me being angry at the fact that not only has this not been happening en masse, it hasn't been happening
At all.
At all.
but the thing is, I suspect the church has ways to retaliate.
well, yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
We may not be
Most
aware of.
assuredly.
yeah. Well, I mean that, and
The
if
Church
you
of Scientology is famous for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the Church of Scientology retaliates by secular means, as it were, in terms of just completely destroying people.
True, they blackmail you and they
Follow
send
you and harass you and
Right.
droves of lawyers after you, and yeah, they do
Yeah.
absolutely harass.
well, yeah, I mean you get followed and people show up on your door and like it's the Church of Science allegedly.
you. Allegedly.
Allegedly,
Air quotes
to be
that.
clear. I haven't done any personal investigation, so I'm not entirely sure of everything that happens, etc. But allegedly as well as a allegedly. Anyway, but if you believe in the teachings of the Catholic Church, then the church, the church is capable basically of excommunicating you and damning you to hell. So
Right.
there's sort of infinite punishment that can be inflicted upon you by this organization. So
Yes,
Allegedly. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for your email, Adrian, and vive la France.
Good point.
So.
Yeah, and anytime you disagree with anything that we have to say, by all means, let us
Bring
know.
it.
And
Excellent
us.
points. Yeah.
So I think I've got one more email from us, and it actually is, well, it's an email and a story. It is our first.
All right.
It is from David. I hope I get this right. Vallon? I don't know. Greetings from Tennessee. Conservatives in our glorious state have defined secular humanism as a religion and have used that to draft legislation to remove funding for abortion clinics. Peace be upon ye, David. So...
What the fuck?
Oh, right.
Oh,
Since secular
oh.
humanism is a religion, you can't fund
Tennessee.
religion, so you can't fund... Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Just, I guess, before we get started...
All wine must be tax-free from now on because it's used in religious services. If this shit gets upheld by the Supreme Court, it's bad, it's wrong, it would damage our country, but that would be my lawsuit.
This is a pretty weak argument, but I want to
kidding.
start by saying, if I remember correctly, because it was kind of hard to track this down. If I remember correctly, secular humanism was originally put forth as a, air quotes, religion because a lot of branches of the military were discriminating against atheists when they wouldn't participate in church services on Sundays. They're like, okay, you can either go to church or you can go clean the latrines.
Yeah, or
your choice.
Here's the period where there's extra jobs. You can get out of it by going to church. I think that I don't know whether that's the origin of them seeking a religious designation.
Yeah, that was the
but
first
it's
time
certainly a benefit.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the times that I heard about it recently. Like, okay, well, if we try and say that this kind of only really in a legal sense counts as a religion, maybe can you please stop discriminating against us?
Be nice.
And maybe
that would be nice.
Clean out the shitter instead of forcing us to go to church.
Yeah.
So I just want to preface that with that. I could be wrong about the specific origins, but anyways, the Tennessee House on Monday advanced legislation prohibiting the state from funding health care facilities that offer abortions with tax dollars, based on the argument that support for abortion is tied to secular humanism. Really, that's the argument.
That's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
GOP Representative John Reagan, the bill sponsor, says the U.S. Supreme Court has previously recognized secular humanism as a religion. Reagan said the belief that abortion is not immoral and not homicide are key tenets, air quotes, of secular humanism. Because of that, he said, states that fund organizations providing abortions would be favoring one religion over another, which state and federal law don't allow them to do. Convenient that they're just now figuring out that you can.
Yeah. Additionally, if the federal government can't do anything that lines up with a religion, then their arguments about the sanctity of marriage go out the fucking window. So...
Right.
Yeah, if the state funds any one thing that has a so-called key tenet of any one religion, then wouldn't they be technically favoring that religion over another?
I'm just waiting for the spoof organization, the Church of Taxing People, to be founded so that they can make this same argument.
Yeah, this is pretty fucking weird.
No. No.
Although, it is Tennessee, so
Yeah.
And it's
weak argument
targeted,
or no.
it's targeted specifically and transparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is very, very kind of
It's very much
shifty.
It's of Jesus or it's of the devil sort of ring to it.
Yeah. The
Not to stereotype Tennessee, but Tennessee is terrible.
Yeah, well...
Continue. So...
This is not necessarily the opinions of all.
Yeah, I'm being a little bit snarky.
How is it that I'm the one saying that right now? Usually.
Yeah.
because you're being responsible. So.
Anyways, the GOP-dominant House members advanced the bill after a brief but tense debate between Democratic lawmakers and Reagan over the appropriateness of the proposal. Particularly, Democrats raised concerns about the measure's definition of, quote, convenience abortion. I'd never heard this before.
Oh, no. They've got another...
Convenience abortion, which under the bill would
phrase.
mean any elective abortion not performed with the intent to save the life of the mother, remove an ectopic pregnancy, or abort an unborn child, air quotes, that is the result of rape or incest. And keep in mind, unborn child, they're using as a legal
Right.
term as a catch-all for,
Of course.
doesn't matter what
Yeah.
stage of the pregnancy it is.
Yeah.
Right.
It
So-
could be an undefinable clump of cells that you don't know what the fuck it's going to be.
It also doesn't matter
yeah.
bodily autonomy.
But they're going to call it an unborn child no matter what stage.
Yeah. So I have problems with this from beginning to end. I don't know. Dennis,
Yeah.
do you want to take a first stab at this? Well,
I mean, it's built on quicksand.
Yeah.
But
Well, I just keep thinking that, having to defend, when is, is it a child? Is it a baby? Is it a fetus? When is it okay to abort? Blah, blah, blah. No, it's an issue of bodily autonomy. Screw all this.
Thank you.
Yes. This distraction.
yeah.
It's bodily autonomy.
yeah, it doesn't matter what stage it's at.
yeah.
The woman's rights supersede theirs.
If a person has to carry the baby to term, then you can make laws where a person has to contribute an organ to someone someone else.
You've taken a stance on whether or not a person is capable of choosing whether or not a second person can use their body without their consent.
Exactly.
That is your stance.
Whether it's
your
growing
stance
inside
is,
them or not.
I have a claim to your kidneys. So if you would like to oppose abortion, please provide your kidneys or the monetary equivalent, preferably the monetary equivalent, by donating to the ACA or supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/TheNonProphets.
Now, that was a bizarre
That was
segue.
a weird
It was a weird segue. Patreon does not accept livers, so just send me your cash.
We got a liver in the mail.
I mean, basically, the point is, even if I were to accept the life begins at conception, my stance on abortion wouldn't change.
Right.
Yeah, and I think really the life begins at conception argument stems from the belief in a soul. And that's why we're getting these heartbeat bills. We're like, we're going to just mash the soul concept to
humans.
The development of a heart, because heart and soul. And I think that's really what it stems from.
I mean, at least they're fans of good music, right?
Yeah. But I got just a little bit more.
Go for it. Bring it.
So,
bring it on.
The legislation also warns the legislation, not the legislators. The legislation itself also warns that organizations that provide so-called convenience abortions tend to erode community standards because they encourage promiscuity and normalize certain beliefs about sex when it's the state's policy should be to favor childbirth. And
whoa, what the fuck?
That's part of the legislation, yeah. Fucking crazy.
Oh, God.
I actually have a quote from Democratic Representative John Ray Clemens.
Of Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Just to explain why John Ray Clemens is a Democrat.
Yeah. Right. I'm wondering from what garbage can you pulled this definition out of and what state you copied this definition from.
Oh, nice.
John Reagan replied, I would invite my esteemed colleague from Nashville to perhaps be more respectful language when addressing someone in this well concerning a bill. I did not,
you, dude.
I did not pull this out of a trash can, and from I don't think the rest of your question deserves an answer.
I can't answer the rest of that.
I was going to say,
shithole.
why, so I think that's perfect because one, you have the accent. Two, accent shaming can go right a horse. But
I'm just a simple hyper chicken lawyer from a backwoods asteroid.
I would just like to ask you,
I
do you
reckon-
own a dictionary?
I may not
reckon
know much,
Tennessee's making an ass of itself.
Yes.
And I would encourage my fellow representatives, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, to kindly go fuck themselves and the horse they rode into town on. Thank you very much. Yeehaw.
Mic drop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
A gentleman would never drop a mic on the floor and leave it.
I dare say.
Yeah. Particularly not when the Lord of Levels has his eyes on the stage. Sorry.
Okay,
I
so
think my accent got too Georgia for that Tennessee.
yeah, you know what? I really don't distinguish between the various states. I have no idea.
You racist. How dare you?
Oh, all states tend to look the same.
Oh my gosh. I was born and raised in the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, I will say.
all you
And
white people
I
sound
must take offense at your Yankee rhetoric. Thank you very much.
Carpet bagging.
Really.
Son of a-
I'm going to hit you upside your head with your carpet bag. Sorry, where were we in the
Okay,
docket?
that is way too many, way off the rails.
Yeah.
yeah.
We're going to
Yes.
go ahead and get into, what do you think? Do we want to do the question or do we want to do a shit segment?
Well, let me.
Shit segment.
I was gonna say, let me grab this real quick.
All right.
And heed my words, mortals, for I have to tell you about some shit that an internet apologist has said.
I liked that.
Namely, wow, I was about to fall into a Georgia accent again. Namely, the most recent ex-pope, the ex-pope Benedict the 16th, that is, I believe it's Joseph Ratzinger. Mr. Ratzinger has made the case that the sexual revolution of the 1960s
Free love?
is responsible, or rather, is the cause of the child sex abuse scandal in the Catholic Church. Scandal, in the singular term, is his representation of this problem and not mine. The former pope wrote in an essay that the, quote, absence of God was behind, end quote, was behind acts of pedophilia. So
Sorry,
I'd like
he said,
I'd like to just ask the question. So what you're saying is that and supporting acts of that are entirely absent of God. So what is it precisely, Mr. Ratzinger, former pope, that you're saying about the current Catholic Church in terms of whether or not it represents God? End question. But wait, there's more of his shit. Sorry, I worked on that response a little bit. So I'm proud
Yeah,
of it.
go for it, man.
Yeah.
I worked on my hyper chicken thing.
I believe that. I believe that you were working on your hyper chicken before you read that story.
I did,
But
actually, yeah.
sorry. So, former Pope Benedict XVI, Mr. Ratzinger, as I will continue to refer to him, has blamed the Catholic Church's sexual abuse scandal on the 1960s sexual revolution, growing secularization, and weak church laws that protected priests. And he did this in an essay that was published on Thursday. So, one of the things that's interesting is he didn't ask for permission or acceptance or clarification from the current, I think administration is probably the wrong word, but the current powers that be on earth representing the Heavenly Father and our Holy Mother of name wherever you're from on earth.
Right. He just
Which is
blurted
interesting.
it out.
Yeah. What's interesting is there's lots of, the equivalent of legal scholars, but
Well,
for a thing called the Catholic Church that have argued that this is the problem with having popes resign rather than just die where they are, which is that now you have an ex-pope and a pope, and then they both say stuff to the public.
What, is God still talking to Ratzinger?
Nope.
No?
I don't know. That depends on who you ask. I'm sure that Ratzinger will say that his prayers are answered. Actually, I'm not sure of that. I have no idea what this ex-member of the well...
We don't
Okay,
know.
so
It's petty for me to say ex-member of the Hitler Youth because it was Europe. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look,
there.
I was a member of the... Well, never mind. I was
Okay,
going to say the Boy Scouts, but it's entirely different.
Yeah, so the last time, I think that...
Boy Scouts is
one
better.
of the last times that I did, I think it was the last revelation of church priests in Texas. There was like 200 something. It dated back to at least the early 1950s.
Yep.
And that was just the one that they voluntarily released.
Yeah. That's when they purchased typewriters to keep records.
That was before this sexual revolution that he's referring to.
Additionally,
before the 60s. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to bet that basically all the other documents that have been released are dating further back as well.
Right. And I bet this goes back in history hundreds, if not 1,000 years.
I mean, even if this wasn't completely asinine,
Actually,
just on its face,
what I will say is...
he's not going far back enough in terms of what he's blaming.
Yeah.
So what I will say is it doesn't go back 1,000 years because 1,000 years ago, the Catholic Church didn't give a shit who you had sex with or whether it was another man or other things. Yeah. So this...
I did not know that.
This preoccupation with Vatican authorities that ostensibly represent the will of God, this preoccupation on with whom you roll in the hay, etc., is a recent development historically, and certainly if you're looking at the history of the church, what the Catholic Church claims goes back 2,000 years. So one might presuppose that, like limbo, it might go the way of the hula hoop, which is to say that get the fuck over it.
I was going to say circle back around or what?
Yeah, I think you're just expressing your wishful thinking for
that might be the best way.
Potentate of verbosity to come to a conclusion.
Well, now, what were we saying about wagon wheels? If we apply that here, it's like, gosh, what were they doing back then?
Yeah, I wonder.
It may not have been frowned upon.
Well,
but
I mean, okay. So what I will say is that actually, you know what? Allow me to elaborate on your point, which is that ideas of the age of consent being something like 18 did not exist. The ideas of an age of consent didn't really exist either.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, there was the idea of rape as far as that being property damage, which dates back to biblical texts.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
There was the concept of a boy becoming a man. There were ceremonies for that.
Yes.
I think most
at
every
age
culture
13.
has that. Yeah.
And, you know, quinceañeras at age 15. But...
Does he have more to say?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Oh,
yes. In his 6,000-word essay...
Dude.
I promise not to read all of it.
Wow! Bigger than the Mueller report.
Well...
I guess
the Mueller report, I'm not sure, but the summary of it certainly.
Yeah.
I guess he's got a lot of free time now that he's not, he is laying on the bed, kicking his feet up in the air, chatting with God.
Yeah, with his ruby slippers, as it were. Which is a reference to the fact that when a pope is elected, they wear red slippers out of the... Oh, shit, I've forgotten what that room is called.
Really?
I'm sorry, all of my theology teachers at Catholic school. Anyway, quote, among the freedoms that the revolution of 1968 sought to fight for was this all-out sexual freedom. I have no idea what accent to do here. Continuing. Part of the physiology of the revolution of 68 was that pedophilia was then also diagnosed as allowed and appropriate.
Really?
What? No.
Who the fuck wrote that?
I don't know.
Like,
Okay.
to be quite honest, send them my contact information on or off any of the shows or public appearances I do. Let me bend their ear about human well-being.
And that's physiognomy, of the revolution.
Oh, physiognomy. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Free love was about
Not that I know what that means.
orgies and shit.
Yeah. Well, I assumed that it was something related to the fact that I don't know. In any case, it's basically so. The reason that he's pinpointing the 60s and the reason that it's significant to the Catholic Church, I double checked. Apparently, it's the supposed art of judging a character from. Wow, okay, it seems to be weirdly related to a person's facial features and or race.
Okay,
I'm going to go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt, given that it was translated from German.
Right.
If there's racial implications to that, then an additional fuck you. However, I'm assuming that there's not. But in any case, the reason that he's tying it to the 1960s is because of the Second Vatican Council, which occurred at that time, which brought in sort of nothing that the modern world or even the world of the 1960s would call modern reforms, but reforms to the church nonetheless. And so he's saying, something changed in the 1960s as well as society in the United States. Therefore, all child raping is due to hippies and not due to the priests that did it. Forgive me for unfavorably summarizing his argument, but I will put that out there and allow you to judge the merits and weaknesses of the point he's attempting to make.
Yeah.
Well,
And with that, I
may
believe
be a simple podcaster, but I think he's full of shit.
Well, I tend to agree with you.
Yeah, chronologically, he is completely off base. It makes absolutely no fucking sense. I think he's just, kind of going soft in the head.
Yes, he's trying to find anything to blame it on other than the Catholic Church.
Additionally, there's documents dating back to the 1950s, which is before Vatican II. So, oh, God, I have a book on my shelf that's how to insult and insinuate in classic Latin, and I didn't look up how to say fuck you in classic Latin.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. To the listeners and fans of the show, I apologize for not looking this up. If you get in touch with the show or me through my Twitter at Jamie the Heathen or through the show by tagging the NonProphets in ACA Productions, I promise to respond with the classical Latin or the closest equivalent in classical Latin for fuck you. So
Sounds like a good idea.
Keep in touch. Yeah. That cool. And if that doesn't get people to respond or at least comment in YouTube, then I don't know what the fuck will. Where are we going from here, Kevin?
All right, I think we're going to go with the question.
Yes, I do have a question.
Okay.
And that's it. Yeah, if theists are, or at least Christians, are fond of asking us, the atheists, where we get our morality.
Sure.
And behind that question is the idea that we don't have any.
Yeah.
Right? And
so that we don't get it unless we're believers, or it is bestowed upon all of us.
Written on our heart.
But how does someone without morality choose a religion? I mean, if you don't have any morality, how do you know the religion you're going to choose is good? Or are you choosing that religion only for your own selfish personal gain?
Well, I think actually that's a really interesting question. Like, if we were to take an AI and just feed it basically, I don't know, historical information and theological information about the vast number of religions.
Yeah.
What would the AI choose?
Well,
no more.
And why would it choose what it chooses?
I think that is a very interesting question. I think the answer to that would depend on what information you provide the AI as far as a basis for its morality.
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, not to cut across the point, but it's sort of like the problem here is a problem of definitions and the idea of like, well, I'm right because I say that I base my beliefs, or again, I'm slipping into twang and I shouldn't be, but
Right.
I say that I base my beliefs on this book that I haven't read and you don't, or even this book that I have read and you don't, doesn't really meet anything close to.
Well,
But,
let's
like,
say it's a supercomputer, and we just feed it all the information about all the religions, and that's it. It doesn't
Nothing
have like
else.
a morality matrix. I'm bad at computer words. It doesn't necessarily. It doesn't have a morality because it's just.
No, it has no. It needs
'cause
goals
it's a
for
computer.
itself to be able to make a choice.
It would need to make its choice on something not relating to morality.
Right.
That is kind of, well, okay, it seems to me an amazing question. I've never wanted to be able to program a supercomputer more than this specific moment. Because with supercomputers, you can have them face off against themselves like they did with the supercomputer that learned to play Go really, really, really well. If you could teach supercomputers to debate points of moral philosophy, or even just compare
Right.
points of moral philosophy, and you provided them like, hey, here's two religions, compare their moralities and determine which one, like, that would be amazing.
But if it had that, I mean, it would have to establish the veracity of the premises you were.
Well, I mean,
presenting.
maybe, but supercomputers do a lot of things that are unpredictable. Additionally, it's not a run once and be done thing. It's like,
Right,
okay, run
right.
this,
You're training it.
figure out what you learn, and then you save that instance, and then after the first instance learns, oh, therefore Hinduism has more gods and therefore is better, have it.
I like that.
If it's possible to have them debate.
If we're just going to do an all-out brawl, numbers
I mean,
are going to win.
The moment that you can teach a supercomputer to debate morality and determine whether or not its arguments are superior, or even just have a
Wow.
judge supercomputer, you can run, oh my God, I'm going to go back to college to learn this. Yep.
Let's have it solve the trolley problem.
Well, I mean, what other basis would it
Let's have it
use?
find
the thing is-
10 solutions to the trolley
The
problem.
thing is, if Christians
fight.
want atheists to become Christians, then essentially they're saying that Christianity is the religion for people with no morals.
You think?
I mean, well, Christianity is the religion for everyone, and no one has morals without it.
Right. We're so fallen. We're so
Well, so-
we're so terribly fallen that we have no morality, and yet we're going to use our terribly fallen, faulty choice making to choose Christianity.
Yeah, I
as
mean,
our
we're
thing.
irredeemable.
How can that be? How can we trust ourselves to have chosen the right religion?
So depending on whom you ask and which apologist you ask, you'll get a different answer.
I'm sure.
And I'm sure that if Matt were here, he would probably provide different and certainly differently worded answers than the ones I'm going to provide, which is that you could get the answer you could get the answer that I think is from the various the religion in which Matt was raised, or rather from the American sort of fundamentals of the Southern Baptists, etc. I'm sure I'm going to misrepresent something,
Sure,
so
go
just
ahead.
bear with me. Which is that you can't. You are a fallen creature. You will fail,
Right.
but if you accept God and are saved and repent. He, through his grace, even though you are not worthy, will provide you salvation.
Right, but how can I trust I've chosen the right one?
You can't.
If I
You're a
chose the
failure.
wrong one,
I mean,
then,
allow me to insert
oops.
my own words. Nuh-uh, you can't. You're a failure. You're worth nothing. You are nothing, man. God will help you because he's great, even though you're the worst.
Yeah, that's a good
Not to. Oh, I'm sorry,
summarization.
Dennis. You're so great. I feel bad.
You're not that bad.
Yeah, I feel worse than God would at basically your sadness in that perspective. But it's an interesting point because it's one that I actually very specifically remember playing a video Tracy Harris on Atheist
Yeah.
Experience talking to a caller about this, where he's saying, "Oh, our moral judgments are failing, are complete failures. We have no moral compass, so we have to trust in God's perfectly just moral compass." And she makes the point of saying, if you don't have a moral compass, how can you judge God to be moral?
Yes.
And he tries to distinguish these things, even though there isn't
There's
a
no
valid
way.
distinction of like, well, no, it's not a moral judgment to determine that God is moral. He uses different words
Yes,
than
it is.
he uses different words than I use because
Sure.
he's not come to the conclusion about his position that is accurate. It's a logical judgment. Oh, it's a whatever
It's a special
judgment.
pleading judgment.
It's a different kind of judgment that doesn't involve me needing to understand morality for me to understand that God's morality is the best morality.
Yeah, all these religions come with their little prepackaged, processed moral system.
Really, again, it's sort of like, well, I don't have
it's-
to think about it because
weird.
God said it, and I'm incapable of knowing what is best, which is why I know that God's judgment is best. It's effectively just listen.
Because I've been told it.
I'm
Right.
It's been hammered
a
in my
marching
head.
Christian soldier in the war of ideas, and I obey orders without question.
And because I have the superpower to be able to detect and positively identify supernatural beings.
You can detect the undetectable.
Well, there's only one, so he doesn't even need a superpower. Everyone has it. I mean,
Well, now you've chosen a specific religion and one without a supernatural father of lies that wanders around fooling people.
yes, but with God's grace, I can overcome the deceits of the devil. How the fuck did I slip into this? What have you done
How
to
do
me?
you know you've got God's grace?
I know for Jesus loves me and shows me the way.
And how do you know? It's all the devil doing that.
Well, if it is the brand of
God is the light in the
apologetics-
darkness, and the Lord of darkness cannot overcome the purest, brightest light.
Yeah.
The brightness
Or
of my
so
countenance
he wants
is,
you to believe.
is only sufficient to show God, to show my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ where I am,
Right.
so that He can provide me with Savior. I've just been asked by my producer whether or not they need to update the Chiron as far as the lower third is concerned in order to label me slightly differently than my position.
Wow.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Man,
I was never a professional Christian apologist, but at times
you
I think
can
I
pull
might.
it out, man. That's a valuable skill, even though it must be kind of uncomfortable to be able
Thank
to
you.
do.
I don't know why I feel like purely flattered. There's no like, oh no, I feel bad. Like, oh, you're the best violent murderer. Like, it's just like, oh, thank you. I do. Thank you. For
welcome.
recognizing the skill a little bit.
Well, it shows that you know both sides
Yes.
of the argument well enough to play both sides.
I think
Yeah.
so. I'm not sure that I've heard anyone else make the same
You could be used as a sounding board.
apologetics that I have, but I'd like to think that
It sounds typical.
with my skill, thank you for and proclivity for argumentation, that I would be
Well, you do get some
helpful.
practice.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my God.
So yeah, that was a really interesting question.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like
It's like it's again the situation like almost in the Garden of Eden where you begin the situation without any knowledge that would affect the outcome of a decision you're going to make.
Well, if it's the brand of apologetics that assumes that the morality is written on your heart, and you basically know this or have it implanted in you from conception, does that kind of nullify the question, do you think?
Well, it certainly muddies the water. It's
Yeah.
hard to think, but people
I feel like it
people
would
ask,
be an easy out.
yeah, people ask, where do you get your morality? Well, how about indoctrination from an early age?
Yeah, how about that?
I think you mean even before an early age. It was written upon your heart by your Lord and Savior.
Oh.
Satan. No. Yeah. I'm gonna cut myself off there. I'm sure that you know what? I'm going to show that segment to Matt and just have him destroy my apologetics argument from the perspective of an apologist, and then
That could be fun. Yeah.
secretly videotape that and send it to y'all, so you're fine.
Well, I think the organization of this show worked really well. This episode. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. There's still plenty of episode left.
Yeah, I don't
So-
have the live chat in front of me. I'm gonna try and be better about that, but it is a little distracting to keep up with the conversation and keep up with the live chat. Eric Murphy's really good at that because he's Eric Murphy.
Dun dun dun.
But
I'm gonna okay. I'm also gonna take that clip and show it to Eric Murphy. So now I have two clips to show things. Eric Murphy's gonna be tickled pink, and I'm gonna try and show him that right before we go live at the American Atheist National Convention this weekend. If you're in Cincinnati, whether you have a ticket or not, look it up. Show up at the bar. We'll chat. We'll have a good time. We'll both not believe in God together at the same time in the same place. Sorry for rubbing that in y'all's face.
I am so jealous that you guys. I was at American Atheist last year when it was in Oklahoma City because it was only like a
so
7-hour drive.
It was Google reported it as 6:40 something or 6:50 something. I got there in 5:20.
Damn.
I have no fear of death.
Apparently.
But yeah, I am super jealous that you guys are going to be there. But congratulations on
Thank you.
Yeah, making it back, and you guys doing another live show on stage. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was gonna say we're on a show right now. We do stuff live.
Well, okay.
The future can only be predicted accurately by a quote unquote prophet, if such a thing were to ever exist. I doubt it. And we are non-profits, so who knows what the future holds.
It's not us.
On stage at American Atheist Convention.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
So, anyways,
a show that doesn't rely on callers that it also wouldn't have at a convention. Sorry, where are we going?
Moving on.
Okay.
Please.
So I'm actually reaching back a little bit for this.
Okay.
Because I stumbled across it. Initially, I was scrolling through, I think it was Human Rights Watch, and it just slipped through the cracks. I'd never heard it when it happened back in February. It was early, I think it was February 6th. And I heard nothing about it from any of the shows. And actually, I'm going to reach back a little bit further to April 20th, 2017 to give you some further context.
Okay.
So this is April 20th, 2017. Russia's Supreme Court on Thursday, Russia's Supreme Court on Thursday declared Jehovah's Witnesses, a Christian denomination that rejects violence, an extremist organization, banning the group from operating on Russian territory and putting its more than 170,000 Russian worshippers in the same category as Islamic State militants.
Wow.
Yeah. The ruling, which confirmed an order in March by the Justice Ministry that the denomination be liquidated.
That sounds dangerous.
And
I think it means financially.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say. I think
have your assets liquidated.
That's a little harsh.
I was gonna say when the Russian government, the KGB, FSB, completely different now, allegedly, or the Russian mafia, which is entirely different, allegedly, determined to liquidate you. I don't think they usually publish it in the press that they control.
Yeah.
Ahead of time.
Well, this is from the New York Times. So, denomination to be liquidated, essentially eliminated or disbanded, had been widely expected. Russian courts rarely challenge government decisions, no matter what the evidence. No kidding.
Yeah.
Not super surprised there.
This is his surprised face.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was very surprised to hear this. So, hardline followers of Russia's dominant faith, that is the Russian Orthodox Church, have apparently lobbied for years to have Jehovah's Witnesses outlawed or at least curbed as a heretical sect. But the main
Wow.
but the main impetus of the current campaign to crush the Christian group seems to have come from the country's increasingly assertive security apparatus. And
Which is not the KGB. Totally different.
no, definitely not. It's the
Right.
FSB.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Russian state is totally not
Yes.
buddy with the Russian Orthodox Church.
No, not at all.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
KGB stands for Committee for State Security, and there's no committee group of people dedicated to state, as is the government, security.
Air
The
quotes.
FSB is dedicated to something entirely different.
So yeah,
I'm just going to mute myself now.
I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole learning more about this. I'm not going to get into too many details, but apparently over the past couple of years,
Yeah.
Putin is very close with the Russian Orthodox Church, and he has been using ties with the Russian Orthodox Church to kind of put the feelers out. All over the world. I think they bought a church in Paris for like $100 million something. Mm-hmm. A lot of French officials are assuming that it's being used as a hub for spy activity, stuff like that. So yeah,
What isn't?
the Russian state and the Russian Orthodox Church are
It's a troll farm.
seems to be very much working in tandem. Anyways,
Well, it's still around, not illegal, and no one's being assassinated on a regular basis.
Right.
So do you think that it's in Russia and cooperating with the government or not? Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself again.
anyways, yeah. Also, all foreign-led groups are viewed with a deep amount of suspicion from the Russia's post-Soviet version of the KGB, the FSB.
How dare you hit them with those slanderous accusations?
Allegedly, yeah. Anyways, so the denomination, referring to the Jehovah's Witnesses, the denomination suffered relentless persecution by the KGB during the Soviet era. Mm-hmm. And after more than a decade of relative peace following the collapse of communism in 1991, it again became a target for official harassment under 2002 anti-extremism law. That law makes it illegal for any group other than the Orthodox Church and other traditional religious institutions to proclaim itself as offering a true path to religious or political salvation.
Oh my God.
So, jumping back up to February 6th, 2019, Russian court sentences Jehovah's Witness to 6 years in prison.
Okay.
Bring it.
So, a Russian court on Friday, that was a couple of months ago, found a Danish Jehovah's Witness guilty of organizing a banned extremist group and sentenced to 6 years in prison. Russia's Supreme
There you
Court.
go.
Yeah. Actually, it was 2017. Russia, banned Jehovah's Witnesses as an extremist group. And over the past 2 years, Russian police have arrested scores of Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm going to air quote that because it's
Right.
only like 50 or so. Jehovah's
Well, that is
Witnesses-
multiple scores.
What makes up a score exactly?
20.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I was actually being a smartass.
well, I mean, no, so it's sort of like saying dozens. A dozen is
Right.
12, and
Okay,
a score
no,
is
I just-
20.
And a gross is
So when
what,
when
144?
Abraham Lincoln said 4 score,
Yeah.
he meant 80.
Okay, I remember.
But now it's used in the colloquial sense. So I very much understand that, whatever.
Now I'm remembering Hyperion. Never mind. Anyways, over the past 2 years, Russian police
Allegedly.
have arrested scores of Jehovah's Witnesses and raided prayer halls around the country, including the group's offices near St. Petersburg. Hundreds of adherents have fled to Finland to avoid arrest. Now, again, that is 22 Jehovah's Witnesses are in custody and 25 are under house arrest.
Wow.
So, yeah, again, this is, I feel like this really should be a much, much bigger story, but I never heard anything about it. 'Cause we were doing the show. We were doing the show in February. I never saw it.
Yep.
I feel like it's probably kind of flew under the radar because they're a smaller sect of Christianity. And
It's
if it was
true.
like a Baptist sect of Christians in Russia.
Oh, we'd hear shrieking.
Oh,
my
yeah.
God.
If it was one of the sects that the American wing of Rupert Murdoch's personal propaganda wing, that is to say, Fox News, recognizes as Christian, I'm sure that we would have heard about it, unless, of course, it would reflect badly on the current president. But,
Or Russia.
well, only because of the current president.
Yeah.
I don't think Rupert Murdoch is that great a fan of Russia.
Yeah.
Personally. But I don't know. Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't think in general that the sort of general Christian population realizes how different they are.
Yeah, and actually, right before we get into a little bit more discussion, I want to say a spokesman for Mr. Putin told reporters that although he did not know the details of the case, the authorities, quote, could not have done this simply for practicing religion. By all appearances, there were some grounds for prosecution, he said, but since I don't know them, I can't tell you anything.
Wow.
It's a pretty lazy
It's
dodge.
not transparent, apparently.
No, not very transparent at all.
Yeah.
One might say it's opaque.
One might.
So, yeah, I don't...
Someone tell me what the Russian for opaque is.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Jehovah's Witnesses. And the idea that you can just declare someone an extremist group and basically outlaw their existence, I find very deeply troubling.
That's because you're an American.
True.
I was going to say, there's a lot of things that are protected in the United States that are not protected basically anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, but I mean, well,
Sorry
I know
to get
that-
across that.
yeah,
Allegedly protected, yeah.
Allegedly.
yeah, I do realize that I do have that bias. I've got something going on in my
Sorry,
ear.
I'm receiving knowledge inspired from the closest thing that I have to a god, which is the control room, Repreznachny, which I believe is allegedly in Russian. Although I'm sure I've is opaque in Russian. The spirits of sound are speaking to me in my earpiece.
Thank you, spirits.
Thank you, spirits of audio and video.
And now we can use,
Repreznachny.
and now we can use that Russian word in our arguments where no one else will understand it, and it will be
Yes.
opaque.
It will be Repreznachny. Yes. Yes, exactly that.
I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I derailed that train.
It
The
is-
train of
yeah,
communism chugging forth.
So, while I do have that bias, I don't think that. I think that it is still a correct position because really, whether it is just to call them an extremist group or not, I think it is still unjust to arrest them just for being members. It is basically guilt by association, and really kind of a
Right.
thought, a thought crime. You associate or you have a belief, and therefore you're not allowed to be a free citizen.
So what you're saying is that the protections provided in the amendments to the Constitution of the United States that protect the freedom of assembly, that defend against guilt by association, are incredibly valuable, and the entire world should adopt them, as well as...
I think a strong case for that can be made, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Okay.
In the presidency.
Well, I mean, I do want to say that actually the Russian Constitution as it is does have those provisions in it, except for that 2002 extremism law that has been expanded and amended several times, has basically a exemption clause in it.
Yeah.
So if the state deems that your beliefs are too extreme, well, fuck religious freedom, apparently.
Yeah.
Then Dr. Frankfurter doesn't get to go home, basically.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. Someone is going to whisper the Russian for laws or guidelines in Russian in my ear. But actually, I've just been told by the spirits that be that, no, they're not. Laws are laws. Yeah.
I don't know, do you have any thoughts on this? I had more, but I don't.
In terms of the government of the Russian Federation deeming the Christian sect, colloquially known as Jehovah's Witnesses, as an extremist group.
Yeah.
I would say that what's interesting, and certainly the unique perspective provided by being raised in the United States with a specific value on the protections provided by the Constitution, is, wow, holy shit, other governments can just say, no, you guys can't talk about this or be in a group or have a group with a name related to this, is kind of a concept that takes an extra step to wrap my head around, given, again, where I was born and raised. It seems like a means of using the government of suppressing an opinion or the influence of a group, which in general is the task of thought leaders, really, of those leaders in the public square, which the United States, in typical fashion, and in this case, I would say correct fashion, believes should not be the role of the government.
Yeah, and I want to circle back to the first article with from 2017 regarding basically the coordination between the Russian state and the Russian Orthodox Church. It's kind of like, when the church and the state work in tandem together, true religious freedom doesn't really go so well, does it?
No.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's kind of like the Russian Orthodox Church wants a monopoly on.
Of course they do.
It's almost like the
beliefs.
The government of the Russian Federation wants no dissent. I mean,
it really is more.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Guess whether or not I could go on and on about my thoughts.
I think it really is more a crackdown on dissent within Russia than an actual crackdown on religious beliefs or freedoms. I think they just made up the extremism thing as an excuse to start locking up people that didn't see eye to eye with the state.
Wait, so are you saying
possibility.
that the government, directed and controlled by the KGB, I'm sorry, oh wait, no, he left before it was FSB, left, like you can leave the KGB, the government of Vladimir Putin doesn't like any influence from an organization that stood defiant in its thoughts of the Nazis operating within the borders of the Russian Federation? Sarcastic question mark. Just keep going. Just keep going. You just watch it back. I'm pretty sure I got all of the grammar correct. There's no conversation here.
I'm alluding to that, basically, yes. Jamie.
Well, in short, I agree with that.
I feel like you want to say more.
I have no idea where to start. What is freedom in a world where there's at least under, I'm about to say the sentence, at least under Stalinism, and then realize that I have to talk for like 10 minutes just to justify that statement. But there's no ideology other than nationalism and power in the Russian government. Vladimir Putin, whether or not you want to acknowledge that he is in whatever the Russian for mindset, worldview, whatever the Russian for Weltanschauung is, is in the Weltanschauung of the KGB, and understandably so. That is what he does. As far as I'm aware, he has no constant companion, at least no constant companion that he will allow the press to speak of. Not to mention that any member of the press or public or world leader or deputy that mentions that he might be gay is dead or gone or silenced. No companion to speak of. He wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning and swims laps. He does nothing but think about the advancement of the Russian state, the pushing of its legitimate and quote-unquote legitimate and internationally recognized borders, and has been known to state publicly, on record, on camera, on recording, that the Russian border has no end. So whether it's through the Russian Orthodox Church or through Islam or through wherever, whether it's through Chechnya or through parts of what would otherwise be correctly recognized as the Ukraine, there is no stopping the ambitions of this man, who truly is, I think, the political, at very least, stepchild of the worst aspects of Catherine the Great.
You were holding on to that, weren't you?
A little bit.
Wow.
And, so it's not just that I have family from there that fled because they were going to get killed. It's that I have a respect for international law and order as it could be properly provided, starting at season 4 and going until they had a different assistant, whatever, in reference to this show. But
sure.
Yeah, there's a reason that I like the system that I was born in. Sure, I'm biased because I was born in this one, but I think it's justifiable because if applied correctly and, rights and laws were applied across borders, it would provide the greatest prosperity for humankind, at least the greatest prosperity for humankind that could precede, an ending of the necessity of international borders, which is, if ever to happen, at least like 100 years away.
All right. I was gonna get into discussions of whether or not the extremism label was just or not. I don't think it is.
Well, so
because we could get into stuff like the bite model, for instance.
That is a much more back and forth topic as opposed to me ranting about the details of.
Right.
I would say Russian foreign policy, but I really mean Putin, right? I don't blame the people of Russia.
Well, the bite model is actually pretty complicated when you really break it down.
Behavior, information.
The only thing that I found in terms of trying to legitimize their claim of extremism was on RT of all places.
Well,
and they were talking about instances of Jehovah's Witnesses refusing to have their children get a blood transfusion, for instance, and them dying as a result of that. Which is fucked up.
Yeah.
If you counted every group or ideology.
Yeah, I would say that's an extreme position to take, but I wouldn't say that makes you an extremist group that is that needs to be outlawed from existing.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say if you labeled every group or ideology or information dissemination organization that said that, do this even though it will get your children killed as an extremist group, I can't imagine the number of extremist groups that would exist in the United States, namely every organization that said don't vaccinate your children or use crystals for healing. Wow, I really am just on a bent now. All you have to do is feed me a little bit of, hey, say something about Russia and Putin and foreign policy, cut me off 30 seconds in, and then give me any other topic.
You cut yourself off like 3 or 4 times.
And you are welcome for that. Because there's in any case. So there's a lot of reporting on that, I think there's something to be said about the difference between an extremist group and a cult.
Mm-hmm. Sure. What is behavior control, information control,
thought control, emotional control?
Yeah.
So
if you're not familiar with the bite model, it's really interesting. You should check it out.
Yeah, you should look it up. And then also, in terms of the Jehovah's witnesses, or rather, the witnesses of Jehovah, depending on whether you're in or out, and whether or not they're an extremist or a cult. You can look up the Telltale Atheist, who's actually, well, I can't. Yeah,
Telltale. I rewatched his video on that today in preparation for this because I wanted to see exactly how he kind of broke down Jehovah's Witnesses, and he ranked them pretty high, even compared to Westboro Baptist Church.
Wow,
that's true.
In terms of how closely related they are to, cultish behaviors.
That is actually I haven't heard of that distinction from him, and I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No.
But that is a very interesting point. If you judge them purely on an application of the BITE model, the Westboro Baptist Church does less to isolate its members from the outside world, right?
That's true, yeah.
They go to law school and become lawyers, and the Westboro Baptist Church is funded by settlements from violations of their civil rights, so it's almost as if all organizations stopped trying to prevent them from protesting in precisely the way that they were legally allowed, they might eventually run out of money to fly their members all over the country or whatever. Not that I'm giving any suggestions, but
they simply have to become more and more extreme.
Yeah, well, I think they've largely gone away. I haven't heard anything about Westboro for quite a while.
Well, I think that might be the reporting, and that's probably because Trump is president, Pence is vice president, and the entire cabinet is full of theocrats. So you don't really have to go to the Westboro Baptist Church to get extreme, out of the fucking nowhere religious opinions. You can look to your federal government that controls your lives and the things that relate to your taxes and the things that relate to whether or not you have interstate railroads. And I'm very opinineed today because
You're
earlier...
a ray of sunshine now, aren't you?
Because earlier in this episode, you brought up Russia. So, and then also someone asked in the... Peter Gray asked in the live comments, Telltale Atheist or Telltale Skeptic? Telltale Atheist.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Okay, so we are going to move on to our last story.
All right.
This is from NPR. Church can start its own police force, Alabama Senate says.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A large church in Alabama is one step closer to creating its own police force, a move that seems to be without precedent in the United States. In the U.S., the state Senate has approved legislation that would give church police officers the same powers other law enforcement officers have in Alabama.
So is this greater power than mall cops?
That was dramatic, Jamie.
I believe that it is
mall
greater
cops,
power
actually,
than mall cops.
Yeah, it is equal. I'm going to get to it in just a second, but it is equal power to regular old police officers.
Okay, that's way wrong.
It is fucked up, yeah. After being approved by Alabama's Senate on a 24-4 vote, the bill now heads to the State of Representatives. Both chambers' legislation specifically names Briarwood Presbyterian Church, a Birmingham mega church that says it, quote, needs its own police officers to keep its school. What does a mega church have a school? And it's school as well
police
as
officers in a school.
well
America, Jesus.
more than 4,000 person congregation safe.
Has it heard of security guards and off-duty cops and fucking off? Those are the three sort of options that it can balance between.
The officers would be given, quote, all the duties and invested with all the powers of law enforcement officers in this state.
Would they have all the
bill
training?
Yes, they would actually.
Okay.
I believe that entirely. Who's in charge of hiring the
police officers
I'm
hired by...
the police of vice and virtue dans Alabama.
The police officers hired by Briarwood Presbyterian would need to be certified by a state standards and training commission according to the bill SB 193.
The state standards of Alabama.
Okay, well, a spokesman for the church said the church was moved to create its own police force after the 2012 Sandy Hook shootings.
So I take it this church is not up with the whole conspiracy theory that those things never happened?
Well, I thought I was, thoughts and prayers was...
Yeah.
Well, at the very least,
shootings.
I think it can be said for this church that it does not take the words of Alex Jones to heart.
Wow, there's a low bar.
I was going to say,
Jesus.
never say that I never paid any compliment to a religious organization
No kidding.
or
Damn.
state.
Okay, so real quick, the bill's main sponsor, Senate sponsor, Wagner, is helping the church deal with the security needs that aren't met by the private security it's already using. So they are.
So it's already using
They
private
are
security.
already. This mega church is already paying for private security, and they just figured.
Claim they need more.
No. Honestly, I think it is. They're thinking, fuck it. It's the Trump era.
Oh, yeah.
We may as well just say, hey, let's see if we can get some free cops because we're tired of paying this private security firm.
That was going to be my question: is
Wow.
from whence does the law enforcement officers' salaries flow? Is it from the coffers of this religious institution?
The mega church is paying for private security
yeah.
currently. My assumption is they want to stop doing that, and they figure it's the Trump era. Maybe we can get some free cops on the taxpayers' dime.
There's that, but also I think the difference between private security officers and police officers, one of the differences is that police officers have the power to arrest.
Yeah, and also
these
if you're
will too, I suppose.
if you're a police officer employed essentially by the state, because if you're a police officer employed by the state but also by a church, that makes you a
How does that work?
officer for Christ.
Who's paying these guys and who do they work
Does that
for?
not fall under the
What is the
establishment
American
clause?
Yeah, what is the American phrase for police of vice and virtue?
Yeah, does that not fall under the establishment clause of,
I mean, do you mean
representing one religion over all others? Does that mean that Hindu churches are going to automatically get their own police force as well?
ain't no such
How about
thing
the
as a Hindu
Satanists? Yeah,
church? There
yeah.
ain't no church but the pick your favorite denomination.
Yeah.
Church. Yeah. It's sort of what am I thinking about? Based on your intro,
Yeah.
the Alabama faith militant, I believe, as far as Game of
Great.
Thrones is concerned.
Yeah, it would be, the faith militant, exactly.
Does that mean that Hillary Clinton is going to go Cersei Lannister? One, get a completely different and much more modern hairstyle, and two, I mean, I don't want to encourage the murder of anyone else,
no.
whatever, but
We cannot have church police officers.
yep.
We
I
already
agree.
have enough issues with,
Literally everything else.
with regular police departments being infiltrated
no
by
shit.
fucking Klansmen and
Yes,
shit like that.
which Google that shit. That's not a fucking. Sorry.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. It is not
Just-
hyperbole. It is.
Yeah.
We already have enough problems with regular police departments. They have enough systemic issues already. We do not need church cops.
Yeah.
Right.
If you believe that it is possible that a majority of the population, which has generally been represented in a majority of law enforcement, has even subconscious biases related to race, which if you're familiar with subconscious biases, yep. And if you believe that people that want to strengthen the effect of those biases would target a specific set of jobs, namely law enforcement, those people legally allowed to wear badges, carry guns, and issue orders, and then you want to check via all reliable sources whether or not that has happened in the United States, I would encourage you to do so. Please.
Yeah, I mean,
do a little bit of background search.
As I said, if you give, this, I'm just gonna say, if you give a Baptist megachurch, whatever their denomination is, police officers to roam, just their property. That is the only thing that I can say that isn't terrible about this is they would be
geographically limited.
They would be sequestered to church property.
Yeah. You would have police officers circling around and being within the place they were officially allowed to be racist.
That's a big old fucking waste of money, I would say.
Yeah, and then you have to off-duty police cops.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Are you referring specifically to the officers or to the church in general when you say it's a waste of money?
Both.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and then in order to stay within the bounds of the Constitution, you have to give police officers to every other denomination. And that's going to be another huge waste of money.
Yeah.
This is fucking crazy. I don't it's not a very nuanced take on it, but I don't know what else to say.
Yeah,
this is fucking crazy.
I'm right there with you, where you have strong opinions, you have information and details about them, and at the end of the day, you come down to this is fucking dark. Yeah, I used to just have those opinions about nations abroad.
Anyways, I'd love to go on and on, but I think we are basically out of time.
I think so as well. I think perhaps Dennis, Lord of beginnings and endings, Lord of the alphas and the omegas, as it were, to borrow a phrase from, fuck off, it's Greek. Lord of A's and Z's. Here, we'll Americanize it. Lord of A's and Z's, of entrances and exits, of police officers directing traffic, will bring us to the end of the show.
That way.
This way and that way.
Yes, let's.
That was our show. And we hope none of your favorite characters died. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks on the 1st of May. Until then, winter is coming.
I think winter's been here for a couple years.
Jesus.